picture is your famous soccer league.
Like
Storing their porta potties in our storage yard like that. Okay? They were tipped over the other day and all the feces went out into the ground. Our city workers had to go clean it up, which aren't qualified to do hazardous waste cleanup. And the ground is still contaminated, even though they poured bleach on it. Now, I'm gonna make a very good suggestion that those things be removed within 2 weeks. Because they violated the contract they signed, which in line 14 that I showed Shannon, cleanliness. The league shall deliver the equipment in a clean, sanitary, and graffiti-free condition to the satisfaction of the city, and in compliance with all regulations of the county health department. Makes it real clear. They're violating it. So they need to be out. The locks have not been on those things, kept locked. And that's why the people, whatever, broke in there and pushed these things off the trailer and put them on the ground. And why are we sending our city staff over? Which means we need to bill them because of course they have insurance, I hope. But they need to be paying for it and then they can collect from their insurance company. So it shouldn't be a city issue other than to send them a bill and pay it. And then remove them from the premises. Because this is what we warned you on. You're not a storage yard. And you start doing this stuff, this is what happens. Your buddy deals turn into nightmares. Now then, I'm talking on another buddy deal, which you say isn't a buddy deal here, but I just disagree with it. Is this thing with the residential house, a bigger being built in the back? I think you're gonna have to show special favoritism to everybody else that comes in and does this. They need to conform with the city rules. I keep getting this told to me when we try to get people licensed for their businesses. Okay? We need to conform with what we have. What Amy's brought up, that's what we need to stick with. We don't need to waste a lot of staff time for one person. One person in the whole city comes in here, that's it. Then it's gonna be another person. So I suggest that we get the storage thing cleaned out, and we get these people out of there, and this ground needs to be disinfected, or something needs to be done. Somebody needs to come in that's a professional company and make sure that this ground is not contaminated and how far it's going. And then I'll just state my opinion on the fireworks. You people are taking from the business. This is from our business license fees that we pay. And I looked on my business license fee, and BJ was very creative back in his day. He has a technology fee, he has a renewal fee and all that. These are not all legal fees. And I know Mr. Sephora and me will be talking on
Mr. Tattle?
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mr. All right, moving on to the presentation. Now, real quick, you guys, are they all like this?
Not all, I won't tell you that.
Okay.
But some of, they were all had feces in them when they were dumped out. Somebody went in there and dumped them over.
I thought they were supposed to be empty, they put it
Thank you.
there. All right.
That's why they spent 4 hours, the cleaning crew at our maintenance yard had to clean it up. And they're not trained to do that.
Right.
And they shouldn't have had anything in them at all.
All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, Ms. Boone.
Okay, all right, hello everybody.
Hello.
The soccer league was mentioned whenever they were mentioned. We said that they should pay their share. Going back to the old original word, they ain't paying nothing. They got the field empty, free, we do everything, we pay for everything, and they just walk in there. They serve kids there, or whoever kids, have a good time, and then they go home. And what? The city residents of Baldwin Park end up saying, oh my God, not again. Okay, that's not right. If they would pay their share to start off the beginning, they would get after these kids and say, hey, clean up, clean up. But by means, if they don't pay anything, they say, well, big deal. I'm pretty sure if you guys lived this close to that place and this happened, you'd be calling the city. You call the mayor, the CEO, the lawyer, Mrs. Cruz, anybody that's concerned in city council, you'd be calling them, saying, look at the mess they got over here, and you people okayed all this. Whoever it may have been, that's not right. Also, on the open session, study section, art park, and art one, there's no, it says community development. That doesn't tell me anything. Somebody off the street looked at that and they said, hey, we're gonna put a big building or something. No. There needs to be an explanation under these numbers that you guys put on there, so we out here don't know what's going on. So all these numbers, R-1, second flooring, you must tell us what it is. Second flooring, what? Castle, a 2-story home, an outhouse, who knows? You have to tell us. Because you people might know it, and you see it every day, your daily work in the city. The people that look at it from the outside don't know what that stands for, or what it is, or anything. When I get Mr. Wall's complaints, I tell them exactly where it is, between what and what, where and when. And that's part of his job, that it's called telegrams, and have it straightened out. I've been by there twice, and they picked up a few trash things, and the rest of it's still there. They have these huge plastic tarps that are going all over the place. And this is where I say you city officials have to drive around and catch this stuff. You are the ones that got more pressure to put on these folks than I do. They listen to one voice. Oh, okay, Mr. Luna, we heard you. And they ignore me.
Mr. Luna?
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Really? The thing about the 4th of July thing, it still goes beyond that. We had a dream 6 months ago, we didn't have it, we don't have money, and all of a sudden we take money, every 5% for the business. We made legal. I don't think so. Okay. I think it's not legal for us to be more into the business. It's wrong. Okay. The citizens, they disagree. They even want, maybe next year, not have the fireworks set. And so around the leagues, you know, they gain from there. But all the leagues right now in Baldwin Park, they're running low, they're running short. What they're doing over there, it's something, probably somebody's going to have to investigate that. But that's what the citizens out there, they want to do. They want to eliminate that restriction, eliminate the whole thing, to do like the fireworks. Okay? That's all it is.
Well, thanks, everyone. Anyone else wish to speak? So then I'll declare the public communication closed. On the items that we have, the first one is the art park presentation. Public works. So we'll go to that.
Council members like to introduce Scott Brady, who's started walking on the design booth. He's been working with council for years, Bobcat and Rubio, in whatever conceptual design, and they completed conceptual design in Scottsdale. Just show you some design, any questions and answers.
We're going to have about 10 minutes to talk about this, so we'll work pretty quick. If I'm going too fast, just let me know, and I'll slow down. So when we first got together, we talked about project goals, and basically to create a park out in the area right from the city hall. I'll go through that location, but the idea was to create a beautiful place and civic and an arts place, a space for events and ceremonies, to integrate local businesses into the plaza, add parking for local businesses along the alley, include a water feature, multiple paths of trees, include wayfinding for not just the park, but for the surrounding area, lighting, a place for food, coffee, create a connection basically between the art building and Morgan Park. And just an example, I mean, we talked about many opportunities for this park, but as a couple of examples, one is to kind of get back to the community For one example is for weddings. Some other cities do this. They create spaces where they allow the community to come in for really low cost and have their weddings there. This would also work with the art building that allows them to have the after wedding dinners. So there's a synergy there, and it really helps and gives back to the community. The other item of many items is the Christmas tree ceremony. So we've allocated a spot to actually put in a tree that's there year-round, but it's decorated during the Christmas season. So basically, this is the area. Morgan Park is up on your left side there. The City Hall is down here. This is the area that we're talking. This is the alley. The local businesses off Ramona are here to the north. City Hall is here to the right. The church is down here below. So basically, this area is what would be allocated as the park space by closing Pacific, Maine, and Sterling on the west side. There would be parking added to the alley, and you still have the ability to drive through. This is the art building, which is just to the east, southeast, the City Hall. This is the image of the area that would be designed. So basically, the art park again is to the west. We connect the businesses, and the idea is that the art, basically the idea of the art, the same idea and the money that was spent would expand out into the park. So just to repeat, basically we're closing Main between Pacific and Sterling, we're adding an alley with parking, north businesses, landscape with an enclosed area. We're going to add a pavilion, seating, and water feature, 3,200 square foot retail building with parking, landscape, re-landscaping the City Hall Plaza, which is an option, and create a connection to the north businesses, and also add park signage. So this is the overall scheme. The retail building is here to the west. The pavilion is the center. City Hall is here to the east. The city redesigned the City Hall Plaza is here, and this is the connection that I just mentioned, connecting to Ramona.
You got 7.
Again, sorry, can you go back to what you were saying?
Yeah, and so you
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so if everyone's aware of this, California's mandated new water reduction. Today is actually the night that the city council will be made aware of what their reduction is. So we have the previous plan was designed with wherever you see green, that's basically grass. Some of it's existing, and obviously this grass would be replacing the asphalt. But as a backup option to eliminate most of the grass, this is actually grass right here, is to keep the same color with green DG, gravel, and drought-tolerant planting material. So there's an alternate plan in case grass is not available, at least for now. In the future, infrastructure will be in there that will allow grass to come back, but it turns out we're not able to make the park grass. But basically, the light green is showing this diamondia, which is it looks like a grass, but it's not durable like turf, so it's more of a visual thing. The walking paths would be more about this green DG, and then we did introduce some light gravel around these rock monuments. I'm going to go through more. We have an animation. So basically, and we'd be adding these flower trellises, something similar that is used at the Getty. The idea of the park, the area of gatherings are based on terracing, like in Peru, when you to create some kind of elevation to the park, not making it flat. So we introduced this idea of terracing. The idea is to create these sitting alcoves, which is something similar to what's done at Monrovia Park. Also to add a water feature where it's not deep like a bath. If you see these people, they're literally walking on the water. It looks like it's deep, but it's literally only a quarter inch deep. So, but the idea is to add that feature, but still make it safe and within the city. And then also to add terracing for sitting areas on the west side of the city plaza. There's also been spaces allocated for community art. So we're not adding the art today, but it allows the community to create art pieces and display them. This is an example of what Pasadena does. They basically you'll drive around the city and you'll see something like this. because they've allocated a spot for art, which is, is consistent with what the art can do for the park. And again, too, the team, the city council, Baca and Susan and other members have gone to other parks, like Grand Park here, Monrovia Park, other parks around Southern California, to kind of pull out the best things that they have seen and pull into this park. The other idea with the alley is to not just make it an alley for vehicles, but it's also to create a space that allows businesses to open up their back doors and add chairs and bring food out to the park to try to, basically help improve the businesses with the park. Also, to the ability to have farmers markets. There's a multiple of things that we can do. They also, too, is there a sidewalk, to have a larger sidewalk to create chalk festivals of many just different things that the city council has been discussing. Okay, so the animation. So I have this animation here that I'm going to. So we're looking down at the park. City Hall's at the right. Okay, so we're looking. Basically, we're looking out of the second floor of the Public Works. Or is it City Hall? But yeah, Public Works is at the second floor, and we're looking down into the park.
So that's Main right there.
So this is Main, and you'll see that there's basically a major sidewalk that kind of comes through. There's sidewalks, there's the alley on the right side, there's also a sidewalk that's south of there, but there's a major walk that the idea is this is where you can do chalk festivals and gatherings and just, sit down and have a coffee, basically. And the idea is, you'll say there's more to the park. The idea of this park is it's more civic, it's a little bit more formal. You'll have activities that are like wedding ceremonies to civic activities. Here are the right of these singing alcoves that you'll see throughout the park. And then also the introduction of just rock, which is very common in these areas. It's a low cost that you can add detail to the park. For example, I've always said throughout the park, if the grass ever had turned brown and had to be turned off, you still have detail to the park with some kind of stone or concrete. So as we come up to the center area, you see that in plan you saw circles, but the idea is that these circles are terraced. You're actually coming up an elevation, and then you're going to come back down. So the center of the park is the central, highest part of the park, and it's a terrace. So you have different levels of terracing. The sidewalk is a ramp that basically connects everything together. To the right, you see that you have the Christmas tree. It would be small at first, but over time, it kind of gets really big. Something typical what they do in Pasadena, where they have the theater that they actually decorate that are about 50 feet tall. So we've allocated a large enough spot that allow the park to withstand the time. These smaller elements that you see here are just foundations for basically art that can be added at future time. Or it could be in this area, it could be a future place for weddings. And then as we approach, this is the center pavilion. So the pavilion is basically, this is that fountain that I was talking about earlier. It looks like it's deep water. The water is only about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch deep, so you can really just walk on it. And it'll be basically it'll run when people are there. It can be drained and turned off when people aren't there. It's just a very shallow, just for an effect, that has steps, and it's not a waterproof pavilion, but it's a shade-proof pavilion. And it's basically a perforated metal panel with structural steel members. There's a ramp for ADA compliance. There's a bench back here for sitting. So there can be presentations, there can be choir performances, there can be art performances. It's a round area with seating on the outside. I'll just step back here. So my time's up, so we're just gonna let it run. Basically, there's the retail buildings on the west side that you'll see in a minute. The below element, there's no sculptural piece or foundation for one. The idea that this is a swale, so the deck kind of sits into a swale, it collects water, so it's part of a water retention plan. But the nice thing about it, it kind of surrounds a cantilever deck that looks out into the park for coffee and food. Has a trellis. We try to maximize the glass for the views into the park.
So what's the foundation that you face window don't are not able to face the grass? What was it that you were saying that you?
So basically, we've allocated green colored DG, there's a green tint to it, and some green gravel, and this plant called Diamondia. It looks like turf, but it's not really turf. It's not something you can run on, but it looks like it's grass. So basically, we replace what you
Can
see.
you go back just one more time, go back
Yes,
to
sir.
the right?
Yeah.
Never mind, that's okay.
I'll let it run again.
The DG is a decomposed granite, you see in a lot of low water.
Looks like sand.
It's got a hard pattern.
Have you been to City Hall?
Yes. Oh, so they have, yeah.
Yeah, if you go in there, but theirs is like a light beige. This DG that we
I've
found,
seen it.
we haven't seen it anywhere, but I asked my landscape architects to push and find different places, and they found it at one place. It's like a light colored green, so it still may have a tint of the park has a sense of a green place, but it isn't. So that's kind of it could set a precedence for other cities and local community about not just having green grass everywhere. So you could, if it turns out this is what happens, it's good for not just the city, but also people who live in the city and the other cities surrounding, in terms of a demonstration of how you can do things and still make things look interesting and civic and have a sense of place. The idea of this park is to give the city a sense of place, a city central, as we're doing high three-story residential. It gives a center to the city that's going by. So,
Very good.
but I can go back to this image. Did you want me to run the animation?
No, I was just gonna.
Sure.
Do
Yeah, let's go to
you wanna see it again? Okay.
Well, I was going to go to this image to show you.
And more you see that landscape, everybody's sort of on it for that now. I mean, even in places where you didn't expect, I go back a month later or something like that, and all of a sudden everything's completely different. You're taking up the lots, putting in a lot of either gravel or that real small rock.
Right.
I don't know what it's called, but it's that really small rock.
Yeah.
It's real nice.
If you go back to like Pasadena was there like in the early 1900s. That's how they did it, because they didn't have water for grass.
Right.
So we just over time, water came in from all over the place. It was cheap, so we did it. So you go to like their city hall and a lot of public areas, you'll see decomposed granite. So we're kind of just going back. That's what you do in a drought, is you do that. The infrastructure will be there. Someday we have a lot of water. We can put grass into the park. Or maybe it turns out the city's able to balance their water use. Like I was just talking to Dan. It's about the percentage of water use. So if you do grass, it's a good thing. If you have to go to this kind of demonstration, it's even a better thing. But it's what I was saying is this is it has a green tint to it. It's a decomposed granite kind of right. Sorry, up there on the left. With a small gravel, you don't want big rocks. You want small gravel. And this is Diamondia, so it has you'll have a green flavor to the park, but it's. And again, this would be grass. This is, I guess I should talk about this. This is the central gathering area with the seats pavilion. This is another gathering area. What we could do is maintain the grass here. So if there's any city events or public events, you could actually come and have a place to entertain on grass. There's benches here. There'll be tall sycamore trees for shade. The garden is up here on I should have said it in animations here.
If you would like to see the animation again, so if you don't mind writing it.
Okay.
Let me know if I can.
Okay, so let me just show you part of these, and then we'll run it against you. So, grass park area, pavilion, center pavilion. This is the garden. A lot of sage plants, lavender, rosemary. This is the area allocated for the Christmas tree ceremony, so there's plenty of space for the tree to get larger over time. These are the seating alcoves. And then this light colored green is diamondia. The blue you see here is the green decomposed granite, and the small gravel is around these rock formations. So that's the alternate to doing grass. Otherwise, it would look like this. It kind of would look like this, but there would be a little more definition. So let's go to the animation. There's signage too. Actually, there's more to it. There's so much to talk about here. That's kind of not enough time to really.
Well, you can pause it and we can just kind of show real quickly. Because like right now, it's really hard to find like a police station, sometimes people drive by you at City Hall. So the intent is that there's gonna be signage where it'll have arrows saying like City Hall, Police Department, even the Arc, Morgan Park, so it's gonna have the arrows going different directions to.
No, that's straight ahead, that's supposed to be City Hall?
That's the retail building.
That's the.
Oh, the retail,
Yeah.
oh, got
You'll
it.
see when we
So
flip
that'll be
around,
added?
City Hall's gonna have the bell tower.
Got it.
But there's also going to be something like a historic walk where there'll be plaques, talking about the history of Baldwin Park.
You want me to talk, do I have more time? Can I
Yeah,
talk?
go ahead, go ahead.
If I have more slides, I just
Yeah, let's put it
stop,
on.
so,
Let's do it.
alright.
That's
Council
the
discretion, I'm just following my instructions.
Let's talk about that, Chrissy.
I wasn't expecting the cue card.
I'm just following my instructions.
So all that's.
I know, I'm going for the
gonna be
hammer.
rock right
Yeah, so this is a rocky swale where basically this lowest point in the park, that's where the water collects. Ideally, in some projects, we've actually put these huge tanks underground to collect the water, and then you use that water to water the plants. But in this case, we're just gonna collect it, it drains into the soil, so it doesn't run out into the street. It just run into the sewers and then go out to the ocean. That's the
That's the
movement.
retail building right there.
So you can see in the background here, you can back over here, that's the City Hall. So if you're sitting on this deck, you'll see the pavilion, you'll see the City Hall with the bell tower, which is really nice.
This is right across the street, to a car wash.
And the idea is to have like coffee shops and
Yeah,
restaurants in
like
that
a little
section.
coffee shop, so people wanna
To
sit
sit out
down
there.
and eat or whatever.
Yeah, it's a very small space. It's enough. It's been allocated for 3 very small businesses or 2 small businesses. But it's a small building just to bring food and coffee to the area. I mean, there's King Taco right around the corner, so that'd be
Right behind them.
yeah, that would be great to see them flip it around and put tables out so people can eat and face the party.
Right.
Now I have a
My
question.
place is always been.
Can you pause it right there real quickly?
Yeah.
So, do you have your flash, right? Show us where the grass area is gonna be, so we know exactly.
Okay, so this is the area that will be maintained as grass. So basically, it's considered like a gathering area. So this could be DG and gravel and other stuff, diamondia, but this will be maintained as grass. And again, these guys are terraced. They have levels to them, but the walk is around that brings you up to it. Then you have the pavilion, which is preferred camera.
How many people does the pavilion sit?
Well, if you had a chorus, if you had a choir that was standing there, you could literally get like 50 people there, plus probably, depending on how you pack people in, because they can stand on the steps, so there's different levels that they can stand. It's enough space for a small band for music. There's a small bench behind here for if there was a formal presentation and people were sitting behind. It's kind of informal, but it's formal. It's kind of a unique place. It's not your typical, hey, this is what it has to be. I mean, it took a lot of communication and a lot of ideas, and I think what's come out of it is pretty interesting. It wasn't just something that we put together in a couple of weeks. There was a lot of different options that the city went through to get to where we're at. It's very interesting. You can see beyond, near the street here, I think, maybe I should run. Can I go ahead and run, Susan?
Sure.
Okay. So in terms of some of the signage. So here's the garden space. The idea of the garden space is that where you see the purples where you have the planting material, and then you have DG in between them. So it's not something that you just sit and look at. You could actually walk in between the planting material. And there's it allows the maintenance people to come in and trim the plants and stuff like that, and not have to step on everything.
We're also thinking for pictures for wedding pictures and parties, they can use it as nice.
Yeah, one thing is we just added here, we added roses here against the will of the landscape architects because they require a little bit more water, but we're thinking maybe this could be the photograph place. The garden is the backdrop, and maybe the roses will give you a little bit more color year round. Sometimes the drought tolerant plants flower more in the springtime. So here's the signage that we're talking about. This would be the major signage ideas, and you can see this from the passing train to people driving down the street, knowing that this is a kind of a city center. We've talked about different names. Currently, it says it's difficult to read from this angle, but it's
Arts Park, Baldwin Park.
Yeah, Baldwin Park, Arts Park.
So is there gonna be a light at the crosswalk, or how is that gonna be monitored for people crossing?
Yes, we're actually planning on having the street narrowed in one either direction from the Mermaid down to the east, down to the south city limit. There's a traffic study that's going on right now. It's going to allow for a bicycle boulevard to be installed as well. And so traffic shouldn't be that big of an issue at that location. However, we probably will have underground crosswalk or something to let drivers usually park.
Because it is very busy there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, I had to get, there were some other views I had of the city hall that enjoyed, but the program was too large. So, that's
Very
okay. Let me go, I'll go over the signage. So yeah, here's some images from, so here's the city hall looking into it. We're adding the hub. This is kind of the center of the area. Just really embellishing the idea of the hub of the city, the hub of San Diego Valley. So that's what basically this is right here. Which signage for the Baldwin City Hall.
And like the
And then
steps.
we've also talked about allocating this spot for a memorial tribute for more veterans. Matt is here with a single flag currently. That's kind of how we've done it. We also had the option, we had the 5 different flags for each organization.
Very nice.
And then again, this is kind of terracing, like I showed an image where we have planting and literally I sit on the steps, you can walk up the steps if you need to.
And you can also sit there to listen if there's music or
Yeah.
there's something going on across the street.
Right, exactly.
Which would be nice.
This is like a sitting area. There's also another one over by the police entrance.
On the other side?
Yeah, it's over here.
That's very nice. So
It's gonna be a
you're thinking about 3 stores.
Yeah, no, they're gonna have benches outside and
It'll
they'll
be 3 like mom and pops, very small. But it's also could be, it's designed for, right now it's actually 2 separate spaces, but this larger space on the end, right here, could be converted into 2 if you use it for this way.
And
Yeah.
it's mostly glass, so it kind of looks into the park. So we're having coffee or with computer or whatever. Kind of
Yeah, this idea is a kind of a county with deck. There's going to be a big sycamore tree. There's actually a shade canopy. It's not a rain screen, but it is a shade, so you can be sitting on here and have some shade protection.
Very nice.
You notice that a lot of buildings are being, the Starbucks is sort of, the new one at Kaiser,
That is true.
it's
Oh, yeah.
sort of, even though it's a modular, right? Is that a
Kind of similar to
modular?
this concept.
Yeah.
That is, you are right.
But this isn't going to be modular,
Right.
but it's that same type of concept of the Grand Park in downtown.
Mm-hmm.
They have the same thing, that's not modular either, but it is like people look out into their park area to use their computers and then they come look out here, have lunch or whatever, very nice.
So here's the image from the signpost that you can see from the
I like that
street.
concept.
And the idea is to see it as a train passing by. So some people, when they drive by, they know this is Baldwin Park. It's actually three-sided.
Very nice ladies.
And again, this is looking down from the, so when you're walking out of the second floor, this is what you'll see.
Just can I add, do you see the shading, we talked about having light on the, we used to call it the flower, but light shooting up from the yellow structure right there in the center, so people can see the center of the city.
So at nighttime, it's illuminated with color light too, so it's not gonna be just light, we could do different colors, so it'll have like this, something when you drive by, you're definitely gonna wanna get out of your car and check it out.
And the signage, is it gonna have light also?
Yes, this is actually metal panel with color light inside of it,
Nice.
so.
So it's gonna shoot out through the cutouts.
It's definitely going to
And
stand
it's
out.
actually, the edges actually have a light filament too, so definitely will capture your eye.
Yeah.
I like the way it blends in from City Hall across the street.
Uh-huh, it's very nice.
Overall.
It's inviting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity to really create a city center for the city. I know you have a development just off Ramona, but this is kind of a little bit more, the idea is to bring more kind of, tailored places in, like the coffee place that we brought up,
Yes, it's, Tierra Mía.
it's just like, things like that, if you want.
Have you been to that?
Well, they wanna
They want to come here?
expand.
No, but that's what we're gonna target companies like that to come into this area.
Kenwood, one of the
Yeah.
big huge line, it's almost like a Starbucks.
If you-
I've
Is
never
Is that
been
an
to it.
Alameda?
No, it's Alvarado,
Alvarado.
near the Pico
Lot of
Union
people.
area.
Lots of people.
Yeah, they've actually expanded all the way up to San Francisco.
So, but they're
having
looking
a
for more
pretty big
spaces,
change.
we're hoping to entice them to come there, so.
Very, very, there's another one in Pasadena by the Lamley Theater and the
Oh,
Little
there
Side
is?
Street.
I
But it's
didn't know
not
that.
called Tierra Mía, it's called something else.
Oh, I-
But it's also the same type of coffee, like ethnic
Mhm.
type coffee places. Oh,
Very
there's a lot of
popular.
people out there all the time.
Well, when, having a park like this, hopefully this is what's gonna attract businesses to come in and develop the area. Is there anything else? Susan,
I mean, if we often offer events for
I
the
think it's
community,
nice.
they will be there,
Yes,
definitely.
and the nice thing is that, it'll be for events that are a little more low key. I
Mhm.
mean, we're not going to have probably, the concerts at the park will always be at the
At the
park.
concerts, of
But
course.
this is more like for the school choirs and the Christmas and presentations and, whoever's having an event, awards or something from the schools, maybe they could even have them there.
And there's sometimes artists artists that are trying to come out, they'll come and perform in areas like that for free, just to make themselves known,
We
so.
thought about like maybe inviting like the high school, because we have very talented kids to like display their art
To
throughout our little
recite.
town, just to have like,
And also music recitals, from the students here
like
at the high schools.
Mhm.
Yeah, what I thought was interesting is everyone thinks about artists as like painters and stuff like that. I was
And
thinking
artwork,
more like artists, like singers. You may have someone who's an amazing violin player that just plays there for an hour, you know what I mean?
Right.
And people, the sound will basically, from the city hall to the retail building, just fill the space with music. Or it could be somebody who just has an amazing voice that just sings for an hour or something like that.
So is that area gonna have the connections and all that to provide the musicians places to play?
Yeah, there's basically an audio-visual system, the speakers will be mounted on the pavilion. There's actually will be a box that's mounted back into the seating area with the controls. They'll also have the controls for the lighting for the pavilion.
So already built into it.
Yeah, it's built into it.
You know, a lot of places have electrical outlets nowadays because they want to accommodate people want to sit down with their computers and sit down with their everything. Is there any possibility like that, electrical outlets or anything?
There's no plans for that. We could do that though, but it's I don't know if the city, I was saying you project Wi-Fi into the space. So that's what they need is the Wi-Fi. If they want to charge their iPhones, well, maybe they just have to have one.
you go to the coffee shop and charge it
Yeah,
there.
you can go to the coffee shop.
And buy coffee.
The idea is to project Wi-Fi
To the
in
restaurants
space.
Yeah.
So if you
adjacent.
do that, people will sit in the park and they can, do what they do on the computers.
So the existing buildings that we have there, for example, the taco place and all that, so are all those gonna be refurbished to make them look nicer and fit in with this?
The plan right now is to put some added trees back. Well, we can't put the trees, it's not, I should say, the city can't put trees, it's not the city's property, but to get the community, the businesses to put trees in between the property lines. And these trees that we'd be in now are low canopy, so to kind of cover up the back of the buildings because they're pretty ugly. But over time, is that if the businesses turn their, their doors to the other side, they will go ahead and clean things up themselves. Pasadena did it. Pasadena alleys used to be really ugly,
Mhm.
but they've turned them around. They move the trash away from the buildings, like we're adding the trash enclosure off the front, away from the businesses. And they gentrify their faces and they put tables on the outside, and people will eat, and the idea is to face the park. So the incentive is, over time, trees get higher, the canopy will be higher, now the businesses will be exposed, and hopefully by then they will gentrify the facades and add tables.
And as a city, if they don't decide to turn their buildings around, are we gonna enforce them to update their buildings, or what are we gonna
I think it's just gonna be
do?
a collaboration, like who's gonna want to sit down with them and, just talk to them about, improving their business, it's better for them. They make more money that way, like the taco place, I mean, really, if you have like a patio
Very
facing the
popular.
park on this side, it's so easy to get clientele because they just sit there, and so it'll help the businesses, I don't have any
So you guys
doubt
will
that
be
they'll
meeting
come
with
on
them?
board. Yeah, they'll come on board.
I mean, the way it usually works itself out, if this really becomes such a great place to be, which it very easily could, people will come into the owners of those properties and they will want to put their business in there, and they'll pay to gentrify the area. So, it'll work itself out. If this is kind of a seed, and once the seed is planted and it's watered, it'll happen. Just like if you saw Pasadena back in the early 70s and 80s, it wasn't a very nice looking place. But you go to it now, it's very commercialized. The idea is not to make this commercialized, but there's so much room for improvement. This is how you do it. You create a great park. So let me just show you the signage. These are some signage drawings. I'll just show you in general. Basically, this is the detail for the major signpost, the one that says, that you can see from the train. The yellow represents basically an interior light, and the pink represents a side light. You can see the side lights. This is in plan, and there'll be a central filament, so it'll actually have light at night. And then this is the City Hall sign. It's basically, it also will be illuminated. And it's just basically a panel with which is a backdrop to cut out letters that says Baldwin Park City Hall. Actually, that's supposed to, we made Baldwin Park, so yeah. City Hall's kind of small though. We've just flipped the City Hall, I think was bigger, but we wanted to flip it. I think maybe we need to do something like that.
Well, we talked about, because we have City Hall, City of Baldwin Park, and that, at the art piece, that maybe we could have City Hall in the back.
Right, we're still kind of working this out. This is the first, we actually had a fountain here that kind of rotated around the hub. We call it kind of the hub fountain, but we took that out, and now we're just basically, see the angle. The idea is to kind of give it some angle to it,
So you can see it.
Yeah, so cars driving by can see it, and somebody walking by can see it. So it's kind of angled a bit. It's about 8 feet wide. And the idea is that it's just an allocated space now that the city would hire an artist to actually design it. Maybe mosaic tile or something interesting. But it's just an allocated piece of concrete right now. The sidewalk, actually, you walk around it. You can't actually look at it, be around it, but the idea is that you actually walk around it. So the sidewalk typically runs along the street, kind of engage the city hub.
Speaking of the sidewalks, are they made out of stones, brick, or just regular? Is there any design to our sidewalks?
Everything's concrete. The alley is potentially a stamped concrete. The alley by the businesses. It's a little bit nicer, but everything's concrete. There's nothing that's it's within budget. Concrete is what it is.
Oh, we're gonna have to.
You could do color tinted concrete.
There is colored concrete. Like if you go back to the plan, you'll see some of the concrete have like a blue tint to them, and that's the.
Excellent presentation. Hey. All right. Thank you very much.
It's very nice.
Thanks, man.
Yes, thank you. It's very nice.
Yeah, no, I don't, I agree. Like you sent me an email saying this is so much for presentation, this is so much for questions, so. Very good.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, Amy Harvin.
Hello.
Our,
Engaged, yes.
yeah, welcome back.
Oh, thank you. Welcome back to Chico.
Back to talk about it.
I do, I appreciate you coming back every 2 weeks. This is, the same memorandum that, you've seen the last couple of times I've come before you. And this is regarding the summary of development standards for a second dwelling unit. I do have a presentation here, so he's done.
Oh,
It's actually just, what y'all had asked for last time. I have an aerial view of the subject property, which is, 4856 Lantee. But then I've also included a slide on there with the development standards that are down at the bottom of the little table down here. Those were a couple of things that you wanted this time around. Another item that you did ask me about was, how does this impact our housing element? So what I did is I actually called a couple of our consultants, thank you, that I've worked with in the past, who work with the State Department of Community and Housing, Community Development at the state level, and asked them, I said, hey, you know, we're looking to change our second dwelling unit development standards, you know, is it going to, you know, if we make any changes, is it going to impact us? And their response was, well, you know, you have to do an annual report to HCD every year. You never know. I'm like, okay, that really gives me a lot of, you know, a lot of security. So there is that possibility. So, but they could say something and it could impact our housing element. So this is something that we do give to them every year, and you will be seeing that, our element from, our update from 2014 coming to you pretty soon. This is the property in question. 4856 Lantee. It is approximately 24,000 square feet. It's about 75 feet wide, about 207 feet in depth.
so what did you say, is it square feet, the whole thing?
About 24,000 square feet, yeah. It is big, and generally the residentially zoned properties in this area along the north side of town, north of Olive, are large. They're relatively narrow and very, very deep.
Do they have, just out of curiosity, I think you guys in the house, do they have like boards at the end of the property that open up to a new development?
Not this property, no. This property actually fronts onto another property the next street over that faces, I can't remember what it is. It's not Bleecker, no, not Lantee, Ellsman. Lucian, thank you. Yes, yes, thank you. Lucena, yeah. So the property at the back actually faces Lucena. So this was the property in question. And then also, we wanted to also give you the table, which is also at the bottom of your memo that I gave you. So really at this time, what I need direction on is if you wanted to move forward with changes or if we wanted it to stay the same.
So so currently right now, it is, it cannot exceed the dwelling of.
The second dwelling unit cannot exceed 1,000 square feet in one bedroom.
There's a 24,000 square feet allowed.
Right, but please remember that whatever changes we make will impact all properties within the R1 zone.
So if we were to go to say, currently 1,000 square feet, 1,200, that, you think that would make a major impact? I mean, I'm out of curiosity about that. Can you go back to that property?
Sure.
Because that property, that property, that home right there, looks like it may be what, maybe 60,
That home is about 1,300 square feet.
Way down.
And the front home, they could build 5,000 square feet if they wanted to. It's just the second dwelling unit in our code is defined as an accessory use to the front unit, which is the primary use.
Let me ask you this, and I know that they wanted to build like a family home for like their son or whatever, right? Can't we just attach it, like make it part of one property and perhaps have like a different door or something, no? Like attach it and expand it?
What do you mean?
Attach it like with a carport type of thing?
Oh, no,
Attach it to the
no,
existing
but-
house?
Yeah, like make it part of, you know.
No, but you're saying that the front house can be expanded.
You can. The only thing with that is that the second, if there's a kitchen in it, then it becomes defined as a second dwelling unit. You can attach it, but there's a lot stricter requirements for an attached second dwelling unit than if it's detached.
So the 1,200 would allow them to have a 3-bedroom home.
That is correct. And that then would apply to, let's say, for example, you had an 8,000 square foot lot in the R1 zone. If they wanted to do a second dwelling unit, that would also apply to them as well, in addition to all the other setbacks and open space requirements.
As long as they meet the open space.
As long as they meet all the requirements, yes.
What's the setbacks from the fence?
The setbacks from the property line to the rear are 20 feet, and then from the sides, if it's an interior lot like this one, it's 5 feet.
Did you say that you couldn't do a tier amendment, like if you have 24,000 square feet, you get this amount, but if you have 10,000 square feet, you get this amount?
That I would have to check back with the state, because it comes back to their requirements regarding affordable housing, because technically these units are granny flats,
Right.
which are required by state law. I mean, it can be done, but it would take a lot of
Right.
looking at the
What's that,
state to
5 feet?
see
That's-
where we can tier it to where it wouldn't impact us, but yet we still meet the state requirements.
But that would make
You
sense.
know, when
It could, yeah.
But that
because
would
I
make
rebuilt
sense.
my home,
I don't know of any
when I
city that
rebuilt my
does
home,
that,
they made me go 10 feet.
so it wouldn't be something
But
that
that's
sounds
why
like
it's
I'd be
like
able to,
feet,
it
I'm
looks like I'd
thinking-
have to reinvent the wheel.
That's because we
The
could
only
have
thing
made
that
it,
I'm concerned about it is that
why
it
my
would
house
impact
is
our
narrow
housing.
because of the setbacks
Yeah,
that
I'm
we changed.
concerned about.
That's
when my existing
my,
house
yeah,
was
that's
close
always my
to
concern
the
too.
line
Our
before,
housing element, when we
when I
got it
rebuilt it,
approved
they changed
in
my setback.
2012, it's good for 7
Unless
years.
I'm like 5 feet, oh, it's good. So, but that doesn't.
And when does it do?
So they
When does
changed
it-
the
when does it
zoning
run?
is because, look at, they just go ahead and change zoning.
Somewhere around there, that's when we'll
Then
have
we
to.
reassess it.
Council has to look.
Then we will have to update our housing element. That's provided that we provide the
So
State
long.
Department of Housing and
Yeah.
Community Development, a housing element update report every year.
It's going
That's the only thing,
So-
if they start snooping.
So what are we talking, what would an increase hypothetically, we go to 1,200?
Well, ultimately, okay, obviously, when you have larger homes, that's more people. You're gonna have more cars on the street most likely. You'll also probably have, more people using our park system, which is already, as we all know, severely, stressed to the limit because we don't have the amount of park space for our residents. So, there's things like that we do have. in
I'm
there.
just curious what we could find out, if the state does allow it to.
I can call in and, ask very pointed questions.
And bring it
If
back.
that's what you like.
Why don't you do that, and we can't do it, we can't do it?
What if they will go ahead and build, what is it, they're allowed 1,000 square feet?
So you are allowed 1,000 square
With
feet
what-
for the second
Additional.
unit.
Yes, but when we reassess it in 2018, you said,
Whatever
they can
the,
add on to the house.
if we change the
If we
code
change it.
requirements, yeah.
But start at least with 1,000.
Because they know that they're only allowed 1,000. right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, just 1,000.
Small
start with
house and
1,000
then-
square feet, and then expand. I mean, so many people have started, especially when the kids move back home or the parents or whatever. They add on another bedroom and what have you, or another story to accommodate everybody.
And that's not to say they can't have them.
And
Exactly,
that's what I don't understand. Hey, I would work on the front house.
because they don't want the kids with them.
That could be.
I'm just kidding, I don't
Can you
know.
find that out, and kind of go
I
through that will
will,
just
okay.
kill it at that time. It's not possible.
Thanks.
Thank
Sure.
you. We're on the time. So,
I'll try and bring that back within the next 30 days.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's over.
okay.
All right, so then the next one that we're going to go is over the conference of labor negotiations. So I guess we're going to close session.
I guess we are.